The More Movement Crew.
Welcome to the More Movement Crew podcast. I'm your host, Kenina Porter, and this is episode number 3. So I'm so excited that we're here today, and I have a very special guest that I want you guys to meet. But last week, Ray Martin was on the show, and we had some really dope conversation around community work and around inspiring people. And so today we're going to have that same type of conversation where she's going to share a little bit about herself. But without further ado, I want to introduce one of my friends, Kriss Liss. I'll just quickly talk about like how we know each other. I met Kriss Liss a couple of years ago, I would say, right? Been a few years.
Yeah.
Been a few years. We met at church and we kind of just connected. I think music is what brought us kind of together. And when I found out she was an artist, I was like, yo, I gotta figure out more. I gotta like meet this girl and talk to her. And we've really had like a connection that I really appreciate, a friendship that I really appreciate. But aside from all that stuff, besides her being a great friend, she's a dope artist. And so I'm gonna give her an opportunity to share a little bit about that. But before we get into all that, I wanna play a game. You ready for this game?
I'm ready.
The game is called 5 Questions. All right? And it's just 5 questions so that people can get to know you and get the tea, right? Not too much tea, right? Not too much tea, but get the tea on who you are, what you like, and kind of what you're into. So, question number 1. What is the most interesting place you've traveled to?
So this questions like this always get me because I don't travel a lot, which sucks, and I think you have to help me with this one. But I guess the most interesting place that I've been recently is Cedar Point. The roller coaster, it's got all the roller coasters, beautiful roller coasters. I love roller coasters. Do you like roller coasters?
No.
I love roller coasters. Like, I'm the one that's like, yes. Like, for instance, I cried on a roller coaster. This was last week, so I'm 26 and I cried.
But you love them.
And I was so happy. Like, I think it was tears of joy, though.
Oh, my God.
Like, it was so scary that I was like joyful that I had the experience.
Oh my goodness.
That's me.
I'm total opposite. I'm total opposite. I don't do heights. I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
So where is Cedar Point at?
It's in Ohio. I can't remember if the city is called Cedar Point or if that's just the name of the place, but it's in Ohio though.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a roller coaster kind of person. Like, I think when I was younger, I got on because peer pressure. But now that I'm older, I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to pass.
Okay.
So I'm trying to work on that, though. Being a little bit more adventurous, a little more spontaneous. All right, so question number 2. What gets you out of bed every day?
I have my business, God, my purpose, wanting to affect the world, and my dog, like, real talk. My dog gets me out of bed.
Your dog?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think one of the things that I definitely appreciate about you is that you are always upfront with your purpose, right? With that mission. And I think that is like super important.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say that, yeah, I'm very intentional about it too. Like I'm purposefully upfront with it on purpose.
Yeah. And I think that, we'll talk about a little more about that because I'm getting ready to go into like this whole thing.
Okay.
But let's get to question number 3 and then we'll get back to it.
Okay.
So the next question is, what color represent you? And you can explain, you can break down why, all that.
Gold.
Why gold?
Gold, because it's warm and but at the same time, the metallic nature of it, the shiny nature of it, the way that it can cast light on you, but it's a warm light. I think that
look how deep she went. She went like so deep on that,
and it looks good on my skin too. I mean, if you want to get like,
I think I think gold looks good on just women of color. Like it makes your melanin like pop. So
for sure,
gold. That's a unique color though.
I was. Is that
I don't really hear people say gold is a color.
Right.
Yeah, that best represents them. You know, you just get like purple, pink, blue, red, whatever. But you don't really get you get into the metallic colors.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Gold. All right, cool. So question number 4. Name 3 songs in your playlist. Or you can do 3 artists because I know sometimes that's hard.
That is very hard.
So maybe 3 artists.
Okay. One artist that some of you might know is Sir the Baptist. Sir the Baptist?
I heard of him. Yeah.
Okay. Sir the Baptist.
I heard a little bit of it.
And there's one guy, oh man, I might butcher his name, but his name is Gabriel Garzon Montano, I believe. Do you know who I'm talking about?
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
The song that, okay, this ain't even about me, and look, I'm already like taking over, but I literally bumped, like, what is it, what's the song? What's the most popular song that he's known for?
I don't know if we're talking about, there's Fruit Flies, there's one called Golden Wings. Are we talking about the same artist?
Yeah, but I gotta look it up because there's one song, look, I might need to look it up, for real, that I absolutely played over and over again, but I'm gonna look at it later on. But yeah, he's a dope artist. I like him too.
Okay, and one more. Oh my gosh, who do I even name? I think you probably know this one already, but James Blake.
Yeah. You've always said James Blake. Yeah. I haven't had a chance to check him out. I've heard a few of his songs, but let's get to the Sir the Baptist. Okay. Let's talk about Sir the Baptist because I've just heard bits and pieces. I think I caught like a couple of Instagram posts. I think he was doing some stuff with Brandy at one point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so like what is he about? What kind of artist is he?
Sir the Baptist is a little bit difficult to explain. He stands a little bit in a genre all on his own, which is very cool to me, and I kind of aspire to do myself. Mm-hmm. But he's not exactly gospel, even though he is. Yeah. But at the same time, he's not. And I think that he is vocal about his mission to reaching a non-gospel audience, and I think that we're watching him via social media, Instagram, figure out what that looks like. And he talks about he loves the business side of things. He talks about endorsements and what it looks like for a Christian to be endorsed in the world, and he's vocal about his faith. He's a Christian, and I like him. I don't know everything about him, but I like his music and I like his approach. At least what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I just haven't. I guess I'm kind of like most people, or I kind of perceived it like most people do, where they want to try to put the artist in a box. Like, what category is he? Like, what does he do?
Yeah.
And then like to see him do a song with like Brandy and some other artists, and then Donald Lawrence. Mm-hmm. He got a song out right now.
And that's the one that's in my playlist right now. It's called Showing Off, and it's Donald Lawrence and Kiara Sheard.
Yeah, that's the song.
And some other people too, I believe. Might be some other people in there.
And I was like, trying to figure it out. Like, okay, is he a Christian artist or like what genre is he in? But I really haven't taken the time to like really check out like content wise, what he does. So that's cool. But I think we always tend to have like some of the similar tastes, in music. But mine is always like based on how I feel. Okay. Like, that's whatever I'm listening to is based on how I feel. Like, it just depends on what vibe I'm on. Yeah. All right. So last question. What is the best advice you were given?
So I'll give you some advice my mom gave me, and she just said, do what you know until God tells you differently. And I like that advice.
Wow.
When you're wondering where your life is headed, and when you're wondering what you're supposed to do, and when you're wondering about your purpose, she was one of the people that I confided in, of course, and she would tell me, do what you know until God tells you differently.
Wow. So that's something you just kind of taken with you?
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty dope. I think that a lot of times like we're kind of questioning like what we're supposed to be doing and if we're doing the right thing. And especially like when you have a relationship with God, you always are questioning like, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path, on the right track? So that's definitely some really, really good advice. So that's something you can keep with you forever, honestly.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that was 5 questions. So now we're going to move into the actual topic of the show and let you kind of explain a little bit about who you are, what you do, so that the world knows what you do.
Okay. How long do we have? How much should I explain?
Take your time.
Okay. Well, I'm Kriss Liss. I'm an artist and music producer. I write my own songs. It didn't start out that way. I used to just be a songwriter and a producer. When I was in college, I started shopping my music and got offered a production deal by a company. Kanye West wanted to buy one of my beats, and it was a huge deal. They sent over the contract, and I read the contract, and it was terrible. The contract was terrible, and I decided to pass up the contract. I didn't even want to negotiate, and maybe we'll get into why later.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to pass up the deal. It just wasn't time.
Yeah.
But I was still devastated about that, and I went into this time at our church that I used to go to. She still goes to. We went into a time of prayer and fasting, and in that time, God just slowly began to feed me my purpose. And begin to coax me into artistry myself, because that was something I never wanted to do. I never wanted to be an artist, never wanted to be out front. I always wanted to produce the music and write the songs and be in the background. But as I neared my senior year in college, I was coming into the realization that he made me to be an artist, and it was terrifying. And I graduated in 2015 with my bachelor's in music business from Indiana University Southeast. And I've just been trying to be an artist ever since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's kind of take a step back, because I always find it fascinating to see how people got to where they are, right? And so, like, as a child, was music like something that was like, did you have people in your family that were musicians or singers? Like, was music always a part of your life?
Oh yeah, for sure. My mom has always been a choir director, directing somewhere, and my dad used to own a recording studio in our basement. It was like where the rappers would come down and come through at all hours of the night and have the music bumping. I could hear it through the floorboards, and so I would either hear my mom in the living room practicing harmonies, trying to get ready to teach the parts to the choir, or I'd hear the hip hop music coming up through the floorboards because of my dad's studio in the basement.
Oh, wow.
And so I always had that dynamic,
Yeah.
that hip hop, gospel, R&B dynamic in my household from the time I was born. You know.
And that's pretty cool, because like your music is like, that's infused together. Like, it definitely showcases like how you've grown up and what your experience with music has been. So that's pretty cool. I've always wondered, wonder how young she actually started.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually started? Like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
how young?
It's so weird to think back. I think that the real gift that God has given me among in this thing is writing, like the songwriting portion of it. And I remember being so little that I didn't know how to form words, but I would write songs.
Wow.
So I wasn't actually like writing words, but in my head I was writing songs, and I would scribble little like lines and stuff, and that was me in my head writing a song.
Did you have like the melodies in your head, or did you? Oh, okay. So yeah, you were writing songs. You know, you just actually write the lyrics completely out,
right.
But I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow. That the reason why I asked that, I think I was having a conversation with someone, and they were just talking about, I think it was an Instagram post she had posted about, it was something, I don't remember. And I reshared it or reposted it. Yeah. And the person was like, oh, she's been doing this since she was young. She's dope. And I'm just like, wow, how long has Kriss been doing this? So you, I feel like you are starting definitely to kind of build a reputation as being someone who has longevity, like just in music, like being known for music. Even in our city, which is Louisville, for those watching, I definitely think that people recognize and kind of respect your craft.
That's true.
Yeah,
and that's that is so inspiring to see, because the spaces that I get invited to and the spaces that respect me are not gospel spaces. They're I wouldn't say anti-gospel spaces, but they're non-religious spaces. And I'm pretty vocal about my faith, but they really respect what I'm about, and I appreciate that.
Right.
And I'm inspired by that myself.
And I think that's the whole point of your mission. Yeah. You know?
And I do think that God makes room for that.
Yeah.
You know, He makes room for you when He's called you to certain spaces.
That's pretty cool. That's dope though. And I've just had the privilege of being able to experience it and to like see your music and see you perform.
Oh, yeah.
And to see you evolve as an artist.
Yeah.
Just lyrically, just the way that you write, how you write, and now moving on to freestyles that you're doing. But we're gonna talk about that a little bit later, and you gonna also plug everybody so they can get involved and so they can also connect with you too.
Okay.
So let's talk about purpose.
Okay.
I know that is something that is a passion of yours. I know that basically has helped you to kind of determine what direction you're moving toward and what God has specifically called you to do. And then speak a little bit about your purpose and kind of as it relates to the music industry, I think. I think a lot of you kind of explained that the contract wasn't right. So kind of talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I guess first and foremost, I should say, I believe that everybody's purpose on earth is to, like, first and foremost, give God glory. And I think that is like the arch or the umbrella, and everything rains down like up under giving God glory. So even in things that don't even seem like it gives God glory, they give God glory.
Right.
And I think that should be our purpose in whatever we do. And our mission and our goal is to make sure that God is glorified. And so so pertaining to music, that's my goal. And you have to keep yourself on that goal. It doesn't happen. You will drift if you don't keep yourself on that goal and steadily remind yourself that it's God who gets the glory, especially in an industry like this where the artist is on stage and up front and they get praised. You have to always make sure that you give that like right back to God, or you'll have problems.
Right.
And as far as the music industry is a trip. Honestly, I don't even know where you want to go. You might have to guide me through with a question, but the music industry is a trip, and it's very hard to. It's very hard to. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say to like recognize your purpose or to stick with that purpose, because
Yes.
they'll try and guide you and move
And that's
you.
exactly what I was about to say. If you don't know your purpose, they'll give you one, and it's probably not the one you want.
And I think that also, I guess that you mentioned it a little bit when you introduced yourself, but you also pursued your education. Like you have a background in what is it?
Music business.
Music business.
Yes.
And so that has helped her to kind of navigate
For sure.
through the
For
system.
sure.
So you got a lot of young people who want to be an artist like you or want to be an artist, and they don't know the business side. Like they don't know anything about it, and so I'm just trying to be famous. I'm just trying to blow up on YouTube or whatever, on Facebook, whatever. And so having that background has really helped you to kind of figure that all out. But
100%.
Right, but the craziness, like, I mean, you don't have to go into detail, but like, what are some things that that you've realized that when you actually started to kind of get connected to the business industry? What are some things that you experienced, you saw, like?
Well, like we said before, they will give you a purpose if you don't have a purpose. So it's important to know what you want, because man, you are going to have so many people coming at you, either telling you have to do something, suggesting that you should do something, or however they say it to you. You're going to have so many people coming at you that you will feel schizophrenic if you don't know what your purpose is.
Yeah.
I mean, are we even going to get into the sexism? Are we going to get into the
Let's talk about it.
It's so funny because I have a music business degree, and I don't tell people.
Yeah.
I don't tell the people who approach me that I have a music business degree. I let them talk.
Right.
And I love to because a lot of people will talk themselves into a corner, talk
That's how you
themselves
learn. Yep.
into a hole.
Yep.
So it's funny when it's mostly, this is a male dominated industry, and I mostly get approached by men, and they say things that are so condescending. And they say this is how the industry works, and then proceed to give you wrong information. And that's why you have to know the business yourself, because it is so easy to get tricked.
Wow.
And so that's the other thing. It's very condescending, and people are out for themselves. People, if you have talent, they'll see you as their meal ticket. They'll see you as you're my last chance. Like, I've had a lot of people come to me, and I could tell that they saw me as their last chance.
Wow.
Like, they were maybe they were former A&Rs, and they got fired because the job of A&R, like the person who finds the talent, that job has changed so much because of the internet. And so they prey on artists that they feel don't know the business, and then make it seem like you need them, but in reality they need you.
Right. Wow.
And so they'll tell you things and make it seem like you don't know what you're talking about. They'll gaslight you, right? And then trick you into a contract where they're getting more than what they deserve, and you're stuck in the contract because you signed it.
Right. And like when people say stuck in the contract, like that's like for years, like
it can
it's
be
not
too long.
Yeah.
But there are terms that are renewable. And it's so important to know like the terms of a contract, because they can't get you And we talk about masters. I don't know if have you heard the conversation that's happening right now about owning your masters, like, and what that means?
A little bit. I know that there's certain artists that they talk about how much their net worth is because they own their masters. I know artists like throughout time have fought for their masters, and that's like a really important thing. But if you want to speak a little bit more to that about the importance of owning your masters and things like that.
It is pretty uncommon for an artist who signed to a major label to own their masters, but it's good to know what your contract says about you potentially buying back your masters if you're signing to a label. I know we just looked at, there's Taylor Swift is having some issues with her masters and moving forward. I don't think she's going to be able to ever buy her masters back.
Wow.
And you can do some more research to find out about why that is. But man, it's important to know in your contract, do you get an option to eventually buy back your masters? Do you, what are the terms? How do you get your masters back? Is it after you reach a certain number of sales? Is it you actually having the money to buy them? Or is it time? Like, what gives your masters back to you? Because that's basically, for an artist, your music career is most of your life because of how hard you have to work and what you have to do. And so when you don't own your songs, it's like you're giving away your life.
A part of you, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All the things that you worked for, the things that get you opportunities, you don't own that.
Wow.
And so it's important. Contracts are important, and then of course there's the independent route where you definitely own your masters, but it's a harder route to follow. But you have ownership.
And a lot more people I'm noticing are going the independent route. There's also, are there artists that can have an independent label, but can they also get like support from a large label? Because I see a lot of times you'll have a major label, but it'll have like a division of a smaller label or another, is that possible?
There are a few different types of like structures where it's not like a regular label. So in a regular label deal, it's like a record deal where you are signed to release so many projects. Like that's the record deal. Yeah. And then what typically happens is the label will take like 80 to 90% of the profit, and then you take that other percent of that profit. Wow. And that's how the deal is structured. Yeah. And there are a whole bunch of other different terms, but that's like the main thing that everybody wants to know or needs to know or has to know. And then you've got label partnerships where, and if an artist gets to the point where they basically have their own system in place and they really don't need a label really, the major label will come in and say, well, let our major label partner with your independent label, and we'll split the profits 50-50. So we'll take your talent and your team and pair it with our resources, marketing, and blow the thing up, like that, right? Because record labels have connections that independent,
like a machine.
Exactly,
it's a machine.
The machine. Yeah. So it's like let us pair our machine with your independent grind and blow it up, and we'll split profits 50-50, and that's an okay deal.
It's seems like a much better deal. I mean, when you're talking like 90%, they get 90% of the profit, you get 10%. And then, not to mention, look how much you have to sell in order to even make money, and all of the costs that go into your budget. So I think that people don't understand that part of it. Yeah. But what I really want to kind of get into, I want to get into, because obviously we're both women, and we live in a patriarchal society where men, like you said, men kind of have the control or think that they have the control. What are some of the ideals or some of the things that are kind of pushed on you, or like how are you kind of approached in the music industry, like as a woman, particularly a Black woman?
I thank God that I haven't had to have too many encounters, because I really have done a lot of stuff thus far myself. But I have been on certain internships, been told, stick with me because I'm going to take you here and here and here. But there was like sexual undertone to it, where they would say, go ahead and get your own apartment, and go ahead and do this. And at this time I was like 16. Wow. So go ahead and go ahead and live on your own, because I want to be able to come in and go, come and go as I please. And I want to be able to do whatever I want with you. I'm going to get you here. I'm going to get you here. Don't you want to be on my arm at this place? And don't you want to be on my arm at that place? And watch out for that, and don't fall for that at all. Don't fall for that. And I've heard stories, horrific stories of things that happen, and I mean, I would just encourage all women to not bend to it, and no matter, you can't be desperate in this industry because you'll get taken. And not only for your music, not only for intellectual property, but your physical body can get taken. You know what I mean?
And also, I think when you said that, I thought about how so many artists feel like they have to alter the way that they look.
Oh yeah.
You need to lose weight. It's always something.
Yes, that's
what
that's probably like one of the
right.
one things.
You always need to lose weight.
And now it's like when you talk about like augmentation, you talk about augmenting yourself.
Plastic surgery, yeah.
The plastic surgery has kind of, especially like what we're talking about Black women, and we're talking about the urban like sector of the market. Yeah. There's definitely this pressure to have a certain shape.
The butt injections are huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I personally wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
I just know that we don't even know. We haven't even begun to know what kind of health issues are going to crop up with people.
Not at all.
Do this,
And there are horror stories out there about females or women who actually get those injections and things like that. And it's just helping people to understand. And what I really like, I went into all of that just because I want our viewers, if we have young women that are watching, young Black women, women of color, that want to be an artist, that they want to pursue their dream, and they have this dream, but they don't know how they're going to get there, and they want to know like what to do. I think it's important to hear your story and hear how it's most important to educate yourself.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have noticed about you is that you surround yourself with people that have your back and that support you. So like that's key. You want to speak to that, just the support system?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel kind of blessed to have it. I don't even know if I did it on purpose, maybe a little bit, but I think that God has just really blessed me with people who have my back, and friends like you who support me. And I made a post about this, but people who come to see me at shows where I might get to only do 2 songs, but you still show up for me, and I'm so appreciative of that. And it's important to surround yourself with people who are going to give it to you real too, And I would say my mom is like one of the people who has supported me more than anyone else. And if you have that relationship with your mom and she's willing to help you, let her help you.
Yeah.
Like nobody is going to have your back like your mom is going to have
your
your
does.
back.
Like
my mom has my
she's backstage at the shows. Like, what time is she supposed to be on? What time?
Get some water. Here's the water. The thing.
The best momager,
right?
The best momager ever. Like,
right.
But yeah, she's dope, and I think that she really celebrates like you as a woman. I think that she supports your gift. Mm-hmm. She believes in your gifts.
Did. Yeah, and I think that's important.
Yeah, to have that relationship.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And I mean, the rest of your family supports you too.
Yeah.
But your mom is probably like,
She is. No, nobody's on her level. I'm sorry, everybody else. But
Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
But that's cool that you have a great support system. And like, I think that like when thinking about like how I kind of connect to your music, and let's just talk about the music now, that you are doing something that I have not quite heard. And when I say that, it's that you are taking your relationship with Christ and you're putting it into words, but you're producing your own beats and you're putting your vocals on top of it, and you're mixing sounds and genres. And so like it's just something that's unique, because I think a lot of times if we're looking at genres, if we're looking at music, there's like R&B, there's hip hop, there's Christian, then there's like Christian hip hop, and so you know what I'm saying. There's like sub genres, and so I think that like when you release something, we never know like what the sound is going to be. We never know what it could be like a really dance hit, or it could be something that like the beat goes like real hard. Let's talk about creatively, like what inspires you. How do you draw from that creativity?
Man, well, I can say that when I first started, I was really inspired musically by Timbaland, and Lauryn Hill is one of my big inspirations. Sonically, I probably sound the most like Timbaland and not Lauryn Hill and Missy Elliott. Like I'm hearing people compare me a lot to Missy Elliott, and I prize that comparison because she's very dope. But I think as far as like my production is very Timbaland-esque. Like he loves the hitting drums and the percussion, and so do I. And I was inspired by him. And Lauryn Hill, I just loved the way that she was like the first person, the album that I heard, where I felt like she was able to talk about God, and it was seen, it was put in a different, it wasn't put in a gospel genre.
Oh, wow. I never
At least
thought
not
about that.
from what I remember. Her album is respected. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is respected as one of the most prolific hip hop R&B albums of all
it's
time.
Timeless, right?
And she spit, and she talked about God on there.
Yeah.
She talked about for talking about women empowerment and women saving themselves and holding themselves and protecting themselves. She talked about all of that on that album, and I loved that and hadn't heard it really before, and not at the level that she did it at.
Yeah.
And that inspired me and still inspires me, you know.
And I think that separates, when you talk about artists being able to kind of set the trendsetters like Missy Elliott and Timberland and Lauryn Hill. It's like their gift is recognizable, but I think there's also like, there's the anointing. Like they have an anointing. And I think that people don't exactly recognize kind of how that works, how that can separate you from just being a singer or a rapper or a producer, right? And I think that is what makes people at the end of a show be like, oh, I love your music. I love what you said. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that ain't even trying to hear nothing about no Jesus.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, she's dope. Like,
oh man, the DMs that I've gotten and the comments that
See?
I've gotten, like it'll be like, yo, that was so mother effing dope. Like, this is the best I ever heard in my life. And I don't even know if they know.
You
what
be like,
I'm saying.
oh,
I'll be
right.
like, thank you though.
Yeah.
But I appreciate those comments though. Like, that's because I feel like people who, and I can't judge anybody, but people who may not know the gospel, that's who I want. That's who I want to hear this music, right? That's who I want to reach.
Yeah.
So
that's dope though. And I do see that, like you get comments and you'll be like, love, like, love. Like, that's cool. So I guess since we're talking about purpose and we talked about kind of some of the things that inspire you, this is a question that I ask every guest, and we're going to close with this, the question is, when did you know there was more? And I'll give you some context around it. Basically, every individual who decides that they want to pursue their purpose, they want to pursue a goal or something that is outside of the norm, right? They want to push towards, some greatness. Had a moment, a defining moment where they said, okay, it's my time. So like for me, my moment was when I was sick. I was living with my parents. I had no money. I was like, this cannot be my reality. Like, this cannot be the end of my story. So there has to be more to this. So I think everyone who has decided to kind of move towards greatness, and that's really what the More movement is that people that are actually wanting more that God has for you, more that's out there. And so what was that moment for you?
I had to say that it paralleled me growing in God. Like, as I grew in God, the realization of my purpose and knowing that there was more to my life came with me realizing that I was made for more than just whatever I thought that my life was worth, but what God thinks my life is worth and what God thinks my life is for. And when I realized that God thinks that my life is for His glory, like I said earlier, I realized that I wasn't doing enough. Like, I'm not doing the more that God has requested me to do. And I don't know, as I read scripture and I saw the devotion that Jesus' apostles had, even Jesus himself, his devotion, I read the Psalms and how devoted David was and the other psalmists and how they gave their whole selves to God. I realized that there was more for me to do, that there was more of myself that I could give to God. And so I knew that I was talented with music. I wanted a record deal. I wanted all that, and I was getting I was getting there. I had the deal, but it was so funny when it came that I had started to really read the Bible for myself for the first time, and so all this stuff was happening to me at the same time, where God was showing me, yes, music, but not like this though. But music in my hands, how I've told you to give it to people, and the message that I've told you to bring to people. So it was around this time in college where I started to read the Bible for myself. I started to grow in my spirituality and my knowledge of God. That's when I knew that there was more.
Wow, that's dope. You pretty much summed up like my whole book, the whole movement.
Yeah, and the book is incredible, by the way.
Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate you coming out and sharing your story with our viewers. If you guys, I want to give you an opportunity to tell us where they can reach you, where they can contact you.
Well, right now, I'm doing this freestyle, these freestyle challenges every Sunday, and I'm mainly posting them on Instagram, but they're also on Facebook and Twitter. And my challenge is called Kriss Liss Kills. And you can find me on Instagram at Kriss Liss, KRISSLISS. And then on Facebook, my Facebook is facebook.com/It's Kriss Liss, ITSKRISSLISS. I'm on Twitter at Kriss Liss. Or you can just Google. If you didn't remember any of that, just Google Kriss Liss, and all of my stuff will pop up right on there for you.
And I think we didn't even get to talk about the fact that you also produce beats, and you also do voiceover work. So you want to talk about that?
So voiceover work is actually how I make a living, and I'm able to do music when I want to and how I want to. I do the voiceover work, and I kind of stumbled into that, and I thank God that I stumbled into that. And yes, I also produce beats, and I engineer. I pretty much, on the music side of things, the composition side of the music, I'm able to do every step of that myself.
Which she did the intro to our show, the More Movement Crew podcast. So check her out. Every time you listen to our show, you watch our show, you'll get to hear Kriss Liss. But thank you for tuning in. We want you to check out our next episode. But before we leave, I want to remind you to subscribe to our channel by pressing the button below so that you can get the episodes as we release them every week. So thank you for tuning in, and be blessed.